Hi, Sharks. My name is Charlie Green. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm here seeking $300,000 for 5% equity in my company, Remento. Sharks, the stories of our parents and our grandparents keep our family history alive across generations. And yet, far too often, when we lose those people, we lose those stories too. Well, with Remento, we have built the easiest way ever created to keep those stories alive forever. Remento's life story books transform a parent or grandparent's memory of the past into a keepsake book for the future. But unlike anything you've ever seen, Remento books completely write themselves. See, every week Remento sends your loved one a new storytelling prompt. And then without any apps to download or logins or passwords, they record their spoken answer, no writing required. Now, some of the storytelling prompts that they receive are handpicked by members of your family, like a photograph from their childhood or a question about their hometown growing up. Our first of its kind speech-to-story technology automatically transforms those recordings into written stories, compiles those stories into a keepsake book. Remento books contain a QR code printed inside that when you scan, link directly to the recording used to write that story. So Sharks, who's ready to make history and help families preserve memories and stories like never before? So the book that you have right in front.
We are back with another Shark Tank breakdown. I am your host, Dave, 10-year intellectual property attorney dealing with everything, as you see, the shirts, patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. Hey, I have to admit, now $6 million valuation, $300,000 for 5%. I would imagine that they need to have some sales or some money being made to justify that valuation. However, I actually like the concept of what he's doing. A book that, something that as you're recording in your phone or whatever the case may be, is writing a book itself based on, I guess, what you're saying. I think that's actually pretty dope. I'll be interested on whether or not you guys agree with me on that. I guess some housekeeping items first. Please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit the subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. I would love to have you a part of the IP community. When we're doing these pitches, if you will, or these reaction videos to the pitches, me being an IP attorney, trying to give you my perspective from being an IP attorney on them. And I look at three things plus a fourth. How simple is the product? How effective is it? What's the market like? And then a fourth bonus one is the IP. So how simple is the product? How easy it is to use or put together. You don't want something that's kind of complex or has a lot of components to the extent that it's just kind of a lot involved for the end user. So again, if you have something that's simple, that's great. They always say keep it simple. The second thing is the effectiveness of the product or the business. A lot of times that's going to be told based on the reviews, based on the sales of the company. And then the market. What's the market like? You heard this gentleman say, hey, the first of its kind. So it seems like in this case, there's not necessarily, not only is it a market for it, but you don't have a lot of competition in the market, which is what you want. As long as you have a market for something and there's not a lot of competition in it, you stand have a pretty big payday or make a lot of money. But even if it was a saturated market or it was a lot of players in the market, that does not necessarily mean that you are SOL. Now that may affect the dollars in a sense that you make, but again, you can still be successful even though you are entering into a market that maybe has some other players in it. In this case, like I said, it seems like this is a market that it's definitely a market. I was kind of just writing some books, recording some videos myself to turn into a book, and I still may actually kind of use this guy's software system to do that. And then the fourth one is IP. To the extent that you have a business and trademarks and things like that, you need to be protecting them. Seems like in this case, just from my understanding, and I don't watch these things ahead of time, looks like this guy not only has some trademarks, but he might have some kind of software that can be protected via copyright, via a patent, or via a trade secret, whatever way he wants to do it. So those are some of my initial thoughts. Again, to the extent that all three of those are in order in terms of a simple product that's effective and that kind of has a market that doesn't have a lot of competition in, you can have a rocket ship. Even if one or more of those things are missing, you can still have a pretty good company that's making a ton of money. And regardless of what you're doing, you need to be protecting the IP. That's the whole part of this channel, to get you into a habit of protecting the IP and that being second nature, as opposed to something that you're trying to figure out or you're coming to your senses on later down the line. So those are some of my initial thoughts on this thing. Let's get back to the pitch and see if this gentleman gets a deal. Let's go.
In front of you is actually a book that my sister and I created with our mom.
So what does it cost to do this project?
So our base price for Remento is $99. For that price, we are bundling a 1-year subscription to our digital product, with a credit for a hardcover color printed book. Our average order value is $119. We have a couple of add-ons that people can add. We take on a liability when we go ahead and book that transaction of $16 to print and ship the books. That leaves us with $103. That's an 86% profit on that.
But here's the problem, and here's the challenge I see for you. My kids, trying to get them to connect to it. Can you integrate that to social media? So it's the platform where kids go that my grandkids or whoever can log into, and because that's the medium they're most comfortable with.
It's exactly the way the product is designed today. It's a digital product with a physical complement. And the reason why it's a digital subscription is to be able to maintain access.
Can you tell us about yourself for a minute? Where did you come from? How did you become such a good presenter? What happened?
I'll tell you, my connection to this business stems very much from personal experience. It was a couple days after my 10th birthday that we lost my dad on September 11th in 2001. And it was in the years after 2001.
In the towers?
He was on United Flight 93, which was headed to the nation's capital.
Wow.
But ended up crashing in a field in Pennsylvania after the passengers
piece of
fought
American
back.
history in your family there.
It is, yeah.
An American hero.
He is an American hero.
Yes.
Well, it was in the years after 2001 that I spent a lot of time thinking about his legacy, both in terms of how we would keep his legacy alive as a family.
He would be so proud of you, just to see you stand with such presence and such strength and such beauty. I'm sure he is, and I'm sure he's very proud of you. So, sorry, keep going.
I'm going to try to get this out. I'm really going to try. In that period of time after 2001, I spent a lot of time thinking about his legacy, both in terms of how we would remember him as a family, and also how he would be remembered in memorials and museums across this country. And I remember coming to the realization as a really young kid that there were so many questions that I was never gonna have the chance to ask him. And it's why when my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer years later, I knew I could not miss the opportunity to ask her the questions that I never had a chance to ask him.
And what happened to your mother?
My mom's in full remission right now.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's so
We're
good.
celebrating.
Charlie, what is your deal? Like, I was stunned at your presentation. It's like you could be President Obama, or you have this flawless presentation. What's your background? How do you have such presence?
After undergrad, I moved to Washington, D.C., started my career in journalism. I then became a speechwriter in the Obama administration for the last...
Oh my God, I got you.
Yeah.
I got it.
That's what it is.
And then I worked at 21st Century Fox for a while, got my MBA, and then started Remento.
And how long have you been doing it for?
We started Remento 3 years ago.
How big a business is this now?
In the last 10 months, which was the duration of how long this product has been in market, we've done $620,000 in sales.
Good for
Wow.
you. Yeah.
We're projected to do $1.5 million in sales in 2024. And we're projected to do $4.6 million next year.
Charlie, how much have you invested yourself?
My investment has been small, but we have raised outside capital.
How much, Charlie?
3 years ago, we set out actually to bring this mission, but a very different product to market. We raised $2.5 million to do that.
What valuation?
And ultimately, that valuation was $11 million.
Whoa. I mean,
And what was the
last round?
product? What was the difference?
It was a very different product. It was focused on facilitating in-person oral history conversations.
What happened to the $2.5 million?
So we spent part of that over that first year and a half. And then we came up with this idea for building an AI-powered storytelling platform. So we went back to existing shareholders who put another $1.5 million into the business for a total of $4 million.
Whoa.
Okay. Little TiVo action.
Company, Remento.
How many partners do you have, and what percentage of the company do you own?
We have 3 institutional investors and 10 angel investors. We've sold over those 2 rounds 30% of the business.
How much money do you still have left from all the raised capital you had?
We had $561,000.
And what was the original amount of everything combined?
All in it was $4 million over the last 3 years.
And when you get to
you're
4
okay
million-
with that loss, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it a loss. I would call it investment in the underlying research and development that led to technology, the first of its kind that allows you to go from memories in your mind to a physical book.
But
that you
let's
can
say
share
the
with your
first
family.
2.5 million was lessons, costly lessons, because you said that
sure
platform did not work and then you pivoted. Am I right, or did I miss?
Yeah, costly lessons is a fair way to say it.
So, Charlie, the next question is, when do you expect to get to profitability?
2025, we're going to do $4.6 million. We're expecting to do $1.5 to $2 million of net profit, depending on where we can get our customer acquisition.
And that leads to you don't expect to have to raise money again.
Correct.
Okay.
Charlie, I mean, I got to tell you, very good on the numbers. I mean, you didn't trip up anywhere. My only problem with this deal is the stack of VCs on top of me. But I'm sorry, man, I don't get out of bed for 5%. I mean, to me, I'd be asking 15, 20% for this thing.
What's your reaction to what he said? Because that's actually kind of where I was.
Yeah, it's a totally fair consideration. I can't do 20%.
Well, I think Daniel has the same pain. You understand
everybody
exactly.
I was
does.
literally, I can show you my notes. I was asking for 20, settle at 15.
Would you split 15 with me on this deal?
I would.
No, I just want to say I was looking at my notes and it said, offer nothing, save your money. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, okay? So I'm out.
Wow, okay, Barbara's a little comedic relief to it. Hey, so far, now, again, I'm not sure how I feel about, seems like raising $4 million over the course, really over 13 investors. I think what he say, 10 angel investors, 3 institutional investors. Like I said, I love the product. It seems like definitely a heartfelt story with his dad and his mom. Shout out to mom who's in remission from, I think what's it, stage 3 lung cancer. So kudos to mom for that. Seems like Daniel and Mr. Wonderful, they both 15, 20% valuation. It seems like this guy, he's good on his numbers that he can't do 20%. Does he get a deal? Where does Lori stand? Where does Mark come in at? This is going to be an interesting one. Actually, like I said, I actually like the app, man. I actually may look at this ahead of time or after this and try to maybe purchase. Let's get back to the video and see if this gentleman gets the deal. Let's go.
Thank you for the feedback.
Charlie, you know when you come, you have to negotiate, right?
course.
Right. So the question is, without playing around, how much negotiating room do you have?
I do have room to negotiate, certainly. North of 10% is very difficult for me.
I understand
I would
completely.
do $300K for 10%.
Oh,
Ooh,
Deal?
ooh.
Almost. Would you be open to splitting that equity between advisory
Oh
shares?
yeah, I don't give a about that. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wait a second.
100%.
Congrats.
Thank you so
Good
much.
job,
I really
Charlie.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously you heard what I had to say. I love the whole concept. I just had to figure out whether or not you had a business.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Charlie.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all, by the way. I wanted to say before I walk off, I've watched the show since the very beginning, and I was able to see something in myself by way of watching the show that I know millions of other people feel the same way. So I'm here because of you.
We appreciate you,
Thank
Charlie. Thank you for who
you.
you are.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good guy.
What a guy.
100%.
You know what?
What a
He
great
made
guy.
Barb, me, and you all tear up. Money doesn't mean anything. People
hey, man, you're talking about, and I know a lot of these things kind of get dumbed down to 10 minutes from a 40 or 50 minute pitch. And I would probably pay money to see the entire pitch on this one because, again, like I said, we only saw a snippet, but from the crying from Lori, from Barbara, from Daniel, seems like things got extremely emotional, as well as it seems like they kept complimenting him on his, his presentation skills. Now, obviously, speechwriter for Obama, and Obama, hey, say what you want about Obama, but he's definitely one of the best in terms of articulating himself. So I would imagine that this gentleman learned a ton. And like I said, they said over and over, man, great presentation, in control, knew the numbers. So I would definitely pay to kind of see what he was saying, what he was doing throughout the entire pitch, entire 40 or 50 minute pitch, just to kind of see. I don't know. It seems like they were in amazement and in awe of this gentleman. Again, he got a deal, which is the most important part, right? With Mark Cuban, and again, $300,000 for 10%. Like I said, it seemed like the other sharks were maybe a little hesitant. Lori, whatever reason, she's just not a technical person, so she's not going to. Which again, hey, go with something that you'll feel comfortable with. That's a good investment lesson, so you can knock her for that. But not Lori, but Barbara. And then it seems like Lori, Daniel, Mr. Wonderful, they were maybe at around the 15% mark, 20%. The gentleman said he couldn't do. Mark Cuban, hey, it's good to be a billionaire. $300,000 for 10%. Is that a $3 million valuation? $3 million valuation. So let's kind of pull up the website. They didn't really talk about the IP portion of it, but let's see if he has some IP on a website. And I actually did not get a chance to kind of look at whether or not Remento is IP. I would be interested in knowing a story on Remento. It doesn't seem something that kind of pops, but apparently it's work. Remento secures Mark Cuban deal on Shark Tank, the memory book that preserves family stories. Learn how Remento made waves on Shark Tank. So again, I would imagine that he has a trademark on Remento. Like I said, I haven't get a chance to look at it. And I would imagine also that he has some patents. Typically, you'll see those at the bottom here. I'm not seeing anything. Let's see here. Okay, so he does have Remento, the story work. He does have a patent on that. Seems like he's comparing it to something else that maybe is out there that's similar. Yeah, and it doesn't say anything about patents or anything. But again, just based on what he was explaining, I would imagine, like I said, he can have a trade secret on this thing. He can have a copyright on the software, or he can have a patent on the software. So again, I love the fact what he's doing with turning these kind of spoken words into stories. And I actually like, you talking about family history over time, year after year after year. Just add in what you said. We used to have the family picture book or whatever the case may be, but just kind of having these in a sense of stories based on your mother or your grandmother, your great grandmother, kind of recording these things over time. So again, kudos to him for developing his business. Kudos to him for getting a deal with the Mark Cuban. Like I said, I would still pay money to watch the full entire 40, 50-minute speech or pitch, just because it seemed like the Sharks were blown away. It got a little bit emotional, but it was able to land a plan. So kudos to the gentleman. Please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit the subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. Again, we were 3 for 4 this episode. It seems like we only got one pitch that did not get a deal, and that was the Happy Bird Watcher, but everybody else did get a deal. So I'll be reaching out to those pitchers or presenters to see if can get them on the show and kind of really tell the story, especially the gentleman Remento. So I want to know what happened for them to kind of continuously praise them in the way they did. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. I'll see you guys next week on season 16, episode 13, I think. So we're moving along here, and hopefully you guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.